Morning and welcome to the Abundant Life Center on this beautiful October 27th of 2024. I'd like to welcome everyone to Lyndon and Nanda's beautiful home. Thank you for hosting us.
Yes.
And Reverend Martie, we're going to be hearing from her, some of her wisdom today. So to begin, I'll light the God candle. And this is a representation of the one power and presence in the universe, known by many names, but the name you choose to use is welcome here. Perfect. And since this is our second meeting of the month, we'll share our values. And our values.
We show up and act with gentle honesty and authenticity, vulnerability, caring, and trust. Open and welcoming hearts, attentive listening to and respect for one another, an intention to connect with the divine, a dedication to community, a commitment to grow through spiritual practice and service.
And our opening song today is going to be One Cove, or Love.
Right.
Some of you know it as One Love, by Bob Marley. And we'll have the music here. That didn't get our blood going. That's great. So now we'll move into our more meditative and spiritual part of our service. And I'd like to welcome Reverend Martie again. It's always nice to have you. And we'll start with, she'll have a few comments, I think, in the meditation before we go into actual interactive discourse.
Okay, great, thanks. Let's become quiet and still, and just close your eyes and find your comfort position in your chair or on the couch. And we agree together to enter the sweet territory of silence. So in that silence, as our body deepens into relaxation and our mind begins to quiet and our thoughts fade and our feelings soften, how do we deepen our spirituality? How does it become even more critical, more the center of my life? Does deepening my spirituality mean more ritual, more thinking, more doing, or more being? We are often invited into ritual that in many ways feels like the reenactment, if you will, the reenactment of someone else's ecstatic experience. Is that how you deepen your spirituality? What do you think it looks like for you? What would you like it to be for you? What do you think it is for you? And the invitation this morning is to open to deepening and enriching your spirituality, opening the door to lots of ways of that expression. Getting back in touch with the indigenous people's ways, which is living it, which is action, which is knowing that every decision I make has a consequence in my inner house and my outer house, the world I live in.
Paul's here.
So today we will have an invitation for you to walk the fourfold way, to live and act through and as your spirituality. A way of showing up in the world, a way of paying attention to what has heart and meaning, a way of telling the truth, and just allow yourself to go to what you know are your talents and skills. And the invitation is, And when we break our silence, to bring back at least one skill, gift, or talent of yours, waiting to be shared with your community, with your world. And so together we leave the sweet territory of silence. And when you're ready, open your eyes and just capture the name of that gift, skill, or talent that surfaced for you. When you're ready. Welcome, Paul.
Yeah.
If those are in your way, I can take those. Looks like they're crowding a little.
4 inches here.
Yeah. Good call.
Okay.
Scoot on in, join the circle a little bit.
Yeah.
Place for my coffee cup, I'll do that.
I'll hold it.
Paul, we were talking about you. I was talking about you.
Okay, Lily.
I'm glad to see you.
We're ready to begin our service with Reverend Martie. So thank
I was
you
thinking
for
about
the gift.
staying home, and then I says, no, I want to be with you guys.
Well, we're glad you're here. Thank you for coming and joining us. And it's my pleasure always to come and be with this community, my favorite one in the whole place. And interestingly, when I was talking with folks from the community, and I was invited to come and do some sharing and teaching, and I said, well, what is it you're interested in knowing more about? And the answer, I think, actually was Eric, and he said, how do I get more? How do I have more? How do I practice more? How do I deepen my spirituality? What else is more? What does it look like? You know, I have my practice now. I have my community. I have what I know has heart and meaning for me. And how do I engage more spiritual? What does more spirituality look like? If I captured that correctly, yeah.
Pretty good.
And last time when we were together, we talked about some of the universal symbols and how we can work with them to give us insight into ourselves. And this time I've brought, actually from the same amazing teacher, Dr. Angela Arian, who passed away about 10 years ago. But she was a very important teacher for me. She's a Basque woman, and she brings that heritage, and she brings the indigenous ways of spirituality forward for a modern world. And how can we engage it? And how does it have heart and meaning for us? And does it even? So excuse my art, but this is a picture of what we're going to cover today. And in the time frame, we can really just introduce it. We can't really dig down. But if we want to have another session, we certainly could and would. But you'll see that. Well, let me say something else first. Let me just say, when I was a little girl, I was always very, very much interested in what other people were doing. I was the watcher, you know, and I have pictures of myself where they had us all standing there in the second grade, you know, for the class picture, and everybody's looking at the camera but me. I'm doing this. I'm looking around the room. And that's not unusual for me. I'm the observer because I want to know how things work. I want to know why things work. I want to know what makes things work better, what makes things not work. And this work is about understanding how focused energy changes things. Focused energy changes things. So this work of the fourfold way that Angela's put together is really about focusing our energies in the four universal main archetypes. Does everybody know what an archetype is? Okay, so what are those four main archetypes? I have to say, I still think about the sacrificial ants that allowed me to come to knowing that focused energy changes things. You know, the old magnifying glass experiment on the ground. And I still think about the ants, actually, and about how focusing the energy could destroy them or could release them. And that was an important lesson for me, and I hope something that you can identify with. And you probably have a childhood story or something in your history that allowed you to see that the blueprints of nature are the blueprints of life. That the blueprints of nature are the blueprints of survival. That the blueprints of nature is a map for interdependency. That we're all in it together. And maybe some of you read Harari's book called Homo sapiens, where he said the only reason the Homo sapiens survived is because they figured out how to work together. How to work together, how to cooperate. So in a lot of ways, this work is an invitation to work together. To do what? To create change. And I have a name for that. This isn't Angela's name, but I have a name for it. I call it mystical activism. And what it's about is becoming a change master by focusing positive, life-affirming energy for change. Focusing life energy for change. So, you know, as a result, I think that I would describe this work as a call to deep spirituality, as a change master, creating change. And, you know, when I was in college, they had this brand new class that nobody ever heard of, and it was called ecology. Remember that?
Yeah.
And like that was in the, I don't even know, late 60s, oh my gosh, early 70s. And ecology is an interesting word because ekos, from the Greek, the house, and it's spelled O-I-K-O-S, I think. I'd have to look it up again, but I think it's O-I-K-O-S, and it's Greek, and it means the house. And ecology is about protecting the house. The inner house, the infinite house that we all have within, and the exterior house, the everyday world that we live in. And so I challenge you to think about the idea that the outer house is the result of our decisions as a species, right? And if we choose to be ecological in nature, that the deepest call to more spirituality, deeper spirituality, might be the alignment of the inner house and the outer house. How do we live in the outer house, the world out there, in alignment with the inner house, the order of our own inner house, our own spirituality? So it's about taking our spirituality, surfacing it, activating it, and living it out in the world, out in the outer house. What does that create? It creates an alignment between the way we are in the outer house and the way we are inside. I guess the question then becomes, if I'm only living for my own spirituality, what are those decisions and in what way are they affecting the outer world, the outer house? And how do I take responsibility for my decisions? Are you following my thread, or have I confused you? I'm looking around at some confused looking face. Okay, so just as to introduce the way that this energy is divided up in the fourfold way. And again, let me just remind you that Angela Zarian has a PhD in cultural anthropology. She's a research fiend. Everything she comes out with is the result of study, research, observation, and the beautiful putting together of all these indigenous works, and including what we now call religious beliefs, getting all of it to come together into something that is so simply stated, but not to be confused with easy to do. Okay? So simply stated, but not to be confused with easy to do. So I want to just go over what are the fourfold ways. So number one is the warrior, which is the old-fashioned word. Now we use the word leadership. Leadership would be more acclimated to the contemporary world, but over the centuries, it's always been called the warrior. So this is about leadership. And the number one job of leadership is to show up and choose to be present. Show up and choose to be present. Because being present allows us to access the human resources of power and position and presence and communication. So we'll work with those and define those later, but in a nutshell, it's about showing up, practicing the power that gives us, knowing and using the power of position, which means making a stand. We know where we stand. Margaret Thatcher had a great saying. She says, well, you can stand in the middle so as not to offend anybody, but then you just get run over by everybody going in both directions, right? You have to make a stand. You have to focus the power, focus the energy to effect positive change, okay? And also in that grouping is communication, so clear communication, honest communication. So some of the questions you might ask if you were pursuing the warrior or the leadership way would be, who are the teachers that I remember the most? Who are the teachers that inspired me the most? Who are the teachers who challenged me the most? How did they wake me up? And you might want to just take a minute, and if there's a name that comes right away of a teacher for you, it might be Gandhi, it might be Eleanor Roosevelt, it might be Martin Luther King, it might be Black Elk, it might be fill in the blank. And just let a name come for you, and then just kind of file it for now. Now, we're not going to be able to deepen totally each of these corners today in our time frame, but should we come back together, there's a lot more involved. So not only what the power is, what the gifts and talents and skills are that empower that way, but how do we feed it? I guess I'll say it that way. How do we feed that power? How do we show up for it? How do we use it? What's the best way? Research has shown the way to empower that power, if you will. Is it walking meditation, sitting meditation, lying meditation, dancing meditation, singing meditation? You know, those, what are the ways that we continue to empower leadership or the warrior, the way of the warrior? And it also includes, what are the shadow ways we use that power? Jung called the shadow. So it's the dark side. So if the mantra of the warrior is show up, be present, what would the shadow side look like for that? Choosing to be invisible, choosing to hide what you could contribute, feeling less than others' contribution. Okay, so just so you have an idea of what I'm talking about, it's the opposite virtually, right? So one of the things that the warrior is challenged with, for example, is being in a group and having something of value to share and change where the group is, because when we share, it changes everything, right? So when we share, it changes everything. So choosing not to share is you're hiding from the warrior energy. That's the shadow. That's the shadow side of the warrior. Does that make sense? Yeah?
Mhm.
Okay. So the question there would be, when and why and in what circumstances or around what people do I practice invisibility? So the second power, the second way, is the healer. And the mantra for the healer is, pay attention to what has heart and meaning. Pay attention to what has heart and meaning. And this is a way that then allows us to access the universal healing solve of love, of gratitude, acknowledgement, validation, the way of the healer. So this is the heart work. Am I full-hearted? Am I half-hearted? Am I clear-hearted? Okay. So what what are the stories from my childhood that I tend to bring forward? Because usually if we retell a story, it's usually a healing story. What are my childhood stories that when I first meet someone, I tell them that story? What is that story? And noticing that. And noticing how the love has healed that with that story. So what are my favorite childhood stories? And again, what are the ones that I've passed on to other people to try to become visible, right?
Can you clarify and say how has the love healed that? I'm not sure what you mean.
Stories are generally a love salve, a salve. I can't say it. Salve. It's what we put on to heal, right? Most stories are healing stories. And especially our childhood stories are healing stories. Or learning stories. Or opening the heart stories. So, when we tell a childhood story, it has a healing element for us, for something. There's something about that story that's healing for us. It's a heart story. It's how we see ourselves, how we love ourselves. Or do we, right? It's how we love ourselves when we say, this is me, this is what happened to me when I was 10, and we tell that story. It's a healing act for us. So, one of the questions that Angelus always would throw out would be, when did I stop telling stories? When did I stop telling stories? When did I stop singing? When did I stop dancing? These are all ways of healing and empowering ourselves. Number 3 is the path of the visionary. And the mantra for the visionary is, tell the truth without blame or judgment. Tell the truth without blame or judgment. That's a hard one. It's a hard one, right? And implicit in telling the truth is that we do it in right timing. That we're not telling the truth to hurt someone, to win an argument with someone, but we're telling the truth as we see it. The visionary, the truth that we see, we're making a statement of the truth. Not in order to hurt or win a contest or win an argument or make the other person less than me or, some of the reasons that we tell the truth. We blurt it out, it becomes an attack, right? So we're talking about telling the truth when we know it and when the timing is right, because the person needs to be, or whomever you're speaking with, telling that truth to, needs to be ready to, 1, hear it, and number 2, actually receive it without having to clean off the judgmental or blame, right? So right timing is important there. So one of the questions that she throws out with this one is, in what situations and with what people do I find myself preferring to feed my false self by not telling the truth?
Could you say that again, please?
In what situations and with what people do I find myself choosing to feed my false self? In other words, not telling the truth. So it's the difference between saying to someone, you're a bad person, you're a bad person, and, get out of my space. Versus, right now I don't feel safe to tell you what I see. Right now, I'm not sure I can tell you what I see without blaming you or judging you or judging me.
Could you substitute feel for see?
Sorry,
Could you substitute feel for see?
I wouldn't, actually, I wouldn't, because this is the way of the visionary. It is about seeing, and feeling is the emotional overlay that we put on truth. We have a feeling about truth, that's the emotion. It's not the truth itself. Does that make sense? It's an emotional overlay. We tend to emotionalize truth. We put our emotions on top of it and try and make them just one thing.
Oh, like justifying.
Yes, justifying is one of those ways. Yeah.
So
Yeah.
So would feeling really be on the other side of the coin of the visionary, and being mindful of the receiver to not cast blame or judgment, and being mindful of how they might feel about what you are saying. So as a visionary, you should be, I think, is that you're empathetic? You should be mindful of the feelings, but not use your feelings to guide what you say.
Yes,
Okay.
very good.
Okay, sorry, there was a run-on sentence to get there.
No, it's perfect. Yeah. Thank you, well said. Yes. Not allowing your feelings or your blame or your judgment or your insecurities to color the truth. Because we do tend to do that, right? We all have an emotional response or an emotional intent or an emotion we need to communicate sometimes when we're telling the truth about something, right?
Yeah.
So the call to action here is not allowing that to happen, not allowing our emotions to color the truth for either ourselves
Right.
or the person we're talking to, right?
Right. So is it fair, or is it or is this an arguable comment? I'm going to say that you shouldn't allow your feelings to trigger what you say, because maybe I'm on the fence as I say that, and I guess I wanted to find out what say you on that.
Yes, we cannot allow, in this walk, the visionary, we work to focus our energy on what we see as the truth. Simply put, what we see as the truth, without all the bells and whistles that we want to add to it, without all the excuses, without the whatabouts, without the emotional overlay of, well, that pisses me off, or, you're a bad person for doing that, or, all of the things that we add on top of the truth. And the other thing is, I mentioned, is timing. Okay, so this person that you're sharing the truth with needs to be at a place where they're open to receive. They're open to receive, which doesn't mean just that they heard it. It means they heard it and they're open to receive it for the way it was meant, which was, I see this as the truth. Yeah? Thank you, good clarification. So the fourth way is the teacher. That, and the mantra of the teacher is be open to outcome, not attached to outcome. So this way is a lot about trust. We have to trust. We have to be okay with uncertainty about what the outcome will be. We have to be open to what the outcome will be, rather than calcifying our position and saying, and working so hard to make the outcome exactly what we want it to be, right? It's about, que sera, sera. What will be, being open to the outcome and trusting the outcome. Right? Trusting the outcome. So the openness that requires and the non-attachment that requires helps us find our way to the seat of wisdom. Wisdom is about trust, about being open to the outcome, about being okay with not knowing what the outcome is, being okay with uncertainty, not having an attachment to, if this happens, I'd be really happy, but if this happens, this is gonna really ruin my life or ruin my day, right? See the difference? So wisdom, the seat of wisdom is the teacher. Being open to outcome, not attached to outcome. And this is the power, this is the way where we access the house of wisdom. So wisdom is the base here. Wisdom is not creating the outcome. Wisdom is about being okay that we don't know what the outcome is. Wisdom is knowing that the outcome is perfect just the way it is. That we don't judge the outcome as being good or bad. Yeah. Then I
Isn't
can
knowing that the outcome is perfect, isn't that a judgment?
It's about acceptance,
Yeah.
of the outcome. Yeah. Knowing that what is unfolding is accepted as the right and perfect outcome. So yeah, I guess it does sound a little bit like a judgment, but this is how she words it. Yeah. Yeah,
So it says,
Well, it's acceptance for now,
Acceptance, yeah.
acceptance.
but there's a time element here, because we may not solve our bigger problems. We may not be able to identify our bigger problems with one encounter.
If I can
Yeah.
add, my blessed friend and teacher Jana, who is gone and took a big part of my heart with her when she left. We would argue about Westgate. We studied the medicine wheel from the same people, but not at the same time. So the lessons were different. Westgate was different. Westgate for me was the story of the bear going into the cave. For Jana, the Westgate story was about the whale in the water. It was a whole lot, and she would ask me to tell the story when we were in circle, and I would need to do the Westgate, and I would tell that story differently, but it's the same story because it's the Westgate. It's that going inside place to find out who we are, and it was the gift. And as I'm remembering and thinking, I have a lot of pain with that because I miss her so, you know. And I think of her talking about the Westgate and the whale, you know, in the water, in the darkness, and that place of going into the dark and not holding on to anything. And I would tell that story differently because it was a different story, and she would give me space to tell it, and it was such a gift. Thank you for listening. I miss her so.
And thank you for saying that. And one of the things that we have to keep in mind is this is a compilation of years of research and the combining of the stories of the ways, which ways. And whatever story works for you is good, right? So whether it's a whale or a bear story, it still holds the truth of what the way is about, right?
Yes,
Right.
when you go into that place, when you're in that place, and either way, it's dark. The cave is dark, as is the water,
Yeah.
dark, and this totally letting go and learning about trust and combining that with power and who we are. It's the same lesson, but it's told with a different light. Thank you.
Thank you. So I was very careful in describing each of the ways, and I'm hoping that when I look in your faces, I haven't confused you. So let's just recap, right? The warrior, show up, choose to be present. Power of position, knowing your stand, right? Where's my paper? Number 2, the healer, paying attention to what has heart and meaning. Paying attention to what has heart and meaning. This is the heart walk, the love, salve. I guess it's salve. What's the word in English? Salve, right?
Sad.
Thank you. Number 3, the visionary. Tell the truth without blame or judgment. And number 4, the teacher. Open to outcome, not attached to outcome. And this is the way that allows us to sit in the seat of wisdom and objectivity.
This all feels also not like a progression. At least I don't feel it like a progression. It's something that happens continuously during the day.
Sorry.
That's something that happens continuously during your day, where you are in these different situations, and you know, one time somebody is a warrior, or then the teacher, or then
Exactly.
the visionary. Right?
Yeah, there's no order. It's
Yeah.
a circle. It's a
And that's
hoop.
why they call it a wheel.
Yeah, that's why it's called the wheel. It's a hoop.
Yeah.
Right?
Round and round.
So, in fact, in the indigenous societies, having strength in each of the 4 ways is the definition of health.
Makes sense.
And
Each of the
we
4.
learned that we only could stand in our place in the center, that candle, and the candle that we chose the color of the candle. It was like us in the center. And when we have experienced and learned the lessons, we could stand in the center and then choose to go where we
Right.
wanted to go, instead of just being where we ended up and saying, oh shit, how do we get out of here?
So one of the things to notice is they're not separate. They are separate, but they're not separate in the sense that true health means that you can move from the visionary to the healer, to the warrior, to the teacher, many times in the course of an hour even, or a minute, right? Yeah.
Right, yeah, I was gonna, you're answering my question that
Oh.
I was kind of waiting to ask, so thank you.
Uh-huh.
Because I do feel that you have to traverse constantly between all these four corners of the compass here. So like, Sananda, you were talking about the teacher being okay with the outcome, but is that passing judgment, right? And so I was wondering if that traversal would be maybe becoming the visionary for the moment to make that judgment. Not that's because I'm not, and so as a visionary, I can see the outcome and I'm able to pass judgment on it because I see that situation. But going back to the teacher, you're okay with that. So I feel like that's how I would be traversing this. Is that a fair way to look at it?
I think I would make a distinction between being okay with the outcome, and if I said that, I misspoke. Being okay with the outcome is different from accepting the outcome. Okay, we accept it whether we're okay with it or not, right?
Yeah.
Because being okay with it is judgment. It's an attachment. This is the outcome I wanted, or this is the outcome I was hoping for.
But would the visionary be one that would be making a judgment?
The visionary is about seeing it. What is the truth?
And truth is a judgment.
Not in this work. Thank you for saying that. And not necessarily in this work. The truth is the name for. It's so hard to
Put into words.
Yeah, it is kind of hard to describe. How would you describe it then?
It's kind of like the color we would choose to paint it. You know, I paint it a different color than you might paint it when we're telling the story about it. And that color that I would choose comes from my heart and my life. It doesn't mean that it's wrong. You know, it's just the color that I would choose to paint it, like the difference in the Westgate and the water or the cave. It's both darkness and nothing to hold on to, you know.
And so which of the people, of the archetypes here would say, and we can all agree it's paint? I'm pretty good at mediation, I'm sorry.
Would you like to respond?
Yeah, it's like the color that we would use. This is like a beautiful, I love it. It's not mine, but I love it, you know. I love it and I honor and I cherish. And it's not the medicine wheel that I studied, but it's the medicine wheel, you could believe it. And the East Gate, in the wheel that I would paint would have eagle medicine and would have feathers, and it would be different, a different animal, a different light, a different color. But that doesn't mean that yours is wrong and mine is right.
Right.
It doesn't mean that at all.
But so how are you saying truth with a capital T, right? And just because I feel one way and you feel another way, do we each have our own truth, or is there a truth?
I don't know the answer to that.
Well, is it like fact versus perspective? You know, the objective observance of
It's about saying, I see you're hurt. It doesn't have any judgment, doesn't have any blame. It's just a statement of fact. I see you're hurt.
But you're surmising that you're hurt. Maybe you're angry and you're not hurt.
You'll find out pretty quick. You're right.
Good one, Paul.
I think that capital T truth, it has to do with the wellspring of being. Capital T truth is that which describes experience more completely. I think as a just kind of a generic way of looking at it.
And your story is different than mine.
Yeah.
And it doesn't mean that yours is wrong and mine is right.
Exactly.
Thank you. Yes.
In detail, yes, but at its core, they're pretty much all the same.
Exactly. It makes me who I am, and we share this planet.
Yeah.
And we make it work. And I brought rice and you bring beans, and it works. It's dinner.
Bingo. Yeah.
Reverend Marty, I love you so. Did I just tell you that?
Thank you. So I'm going to read to you what she wrote about the visionary. She said, the visionary archetype asks us to tell the truth without blame or judgment. We express the visionary when we honor the 4 ways of seeing and the power of prayer, when we give voice to what we see internally and externally, and when we bring forward our creative spirit and life dream.
So we all need to do that sometimes. We need to all, like everybody's saying, we all need to do all these things to have a good
Right,
life.
and as I repeat that the picture of health is that we are powerful in each of the 4 ways. And when we become powerful in, say, visionary, it helps us be a healer. It helps us be a warrior or leader. That helps us, right? So the health is brought up across the board as we become more empowered in each of these ways. So what it is it breaks down how to live, how to focus power and energy in a positive way, how to live in alignment of our inner house and our outer house, the world at large, right? So the invitation is that we are always walking around here, right? Throughout an hour or a day or a lifetime. So what I want to do, are there any more basic questions?
Hopefully really
Yeah.
quick. Are any of these more closely related to each other? So like the positioning, so it's not like teacher and visionary have a special tie and healer and warrior have
No.
any special tie. They're all equally connected energetically and all.
Right.
Okay.
And they're all interactive. They interact with each other, right? Because when you're telling the truth, you're making a stand. You're a warrior, right?
Now, here you have also, for instance, orientation, north, east, and so on. So if you're a warrior, do you want to turn yourself north and act in this sense, or you see what I mean? Does the orientation help in the execution of what you are in the process of doing?
In terms of the practice of the program, it's yes, there are ways to build power in each of these ways.
Mhm.
Okay, so what kind of meditation is the most empowering for the warrior? Do you see it?
Standing.
The standing meditation.
Okay.
Okay. It's about action, it's about showing up. Dancing enhances our leadership. The rattle is the music that most engenders power building in this particular way.
Mm,
Okay?
okay.
So there are ways that are suggested to practice, to be in the practice of the way. Okay?
The way it was explained to me by some of the women that I studied, it was a masculine, feminine kind of experience too. Like we the women would go into the Moon Lodge once a month, right? And we would come out and tell the men, the warriors and the hunters where the buffalo were and where to go and what to do and how to do it. And they'd come back with the buffalo. We would dress them, you know, and do what we needed to do and make the clothes and do whatever with it. But we would send them, they would be the warriors and the hunters and they would do the work of it. But we'd tell them when and where and how and what to bring back and how to do it, you know? So it's all part of the same picture. And the Moon Lodge was a whole different experience. The Moon Lodge was a feminine place that we would go to when the moon was full, and all the women would be together at their moon time and have that place and have that experience and that sharing in that way together. And we would and we would come out with our rattles and we would be singing and dancing and doing all that and telling them where the buffalo were and where to go. And it would be almost an intuitive kind of thing, and it would be a together, and we're in the same tribe, and they'd come back with the meat, and that's how we eat and feed each other and do all that. And we would look, I'm sorry.
So it's all in play. It's all in play all the time, right? And it's all interactive, and it's in many ways interdependent. Because now, how many people feel like there's one way that they feel the most developed in?
Yeah.
Yeah. Which one?
The healer path is
The
what,
healer.
Yeah, that's what calls to me.
Okay.
Because, yeah,
Okay.
I have this dharma of service, and it's that's what resonates with me.
And may I ask you, did you come up with the name of a gift or talent or skill during the meditation?
And it was that. It
was
was
what?
service. It was being
Service.
of service.
Service was the word.
Of helping, being there to help people when they needed it.
And so what it's really important to notice is when we have energy that's focused on one of the ways that's more developed than some of the other ways, that's what surfaces. It's interesting to see that that's where you went, right? Because it means perhaps that this is where you're most developed in terms of your spiritual path and the way that works for you, that empowers you to be a change master in the world, right? So do you think that being able to make a stand or tell the truth as you see it would support your healer archetype? So some of the things,
Definitely telling the truth as I see it is,
Right.
is very helpful.
right,
Making a stand is harder for me. It's so being aware of that is really good. So now that I'm aware, I have to push myself to make a stand. If it's because I'm like, hey, live and let live. Let everybody do what everybody wants to do. Who am I to have an opinion? So yeah, it's definitely an area where I don't have as much strength.
right. So consider that what developing the other three pathways, how they could further empower your healer archetype. And I repeat, it is seen as being the epitome of fine health that you have power in each of the four ways, right?
Balance.
Balance.
Right?
And we were told when we spent 2 years, we spent a time in each area and learned the lessons of it. And when we graduated, we were in the middle. The candle was who we were, and we could choose. I could go to the South Gate when I wanted to be in the South Gate and work on building my altar and putting what I wanted there and doing my prayer in that way and cleaning it up. Or I could go in the East Gate and talk to the eagle, you know, and you have fire and the no-legged creatures and the snake would have something to do with that, you know. and or the whale. I could go in the water, or I could go in the cave, whichever one I wanted to do. My choice. It'd be my choice to do or explore or go. If I was hungry, I need to go hunting and figure out where I'm going to go and where I'm going to eat and how I'm going to do it. And I could choose what to do. But oftentimes, before I knew all that, it'd be where I end up. Oh God, here I am again. Oh shit, how I got in this mess? I don't know what I did. So we have
that
to.
is the teacher where you need to be open to the outcome.
And the beauty is that is the practice. The practice is standing in the center and accessing any of these ways in a moment, and the more you do it, the more natural it becomes and the more fruitful it becomes in terms of how it puts wood on your fire for that particular way, right? Does that make sense? The more it's something that you learn to do, and the more you do it, it just becomes natural. And in fact, for me, I see myself going all over all the time, and I don't even think, I'm walking over to visionary, or it's right there, because the more you step over that threshold, the easier and more natural it is, and it's just something that you do. It is spiritual practice. It is a spiritual practice, right? It's like Rumi said.
Giovanni's been trying to make a comment.
I'm sorry.
No, I'm just looking for a good entry point here, and I think so with an example of, like, if you are a healer, so because I think you were asking about like an example of how you would touch on all the others. So as a healer, if you are doing triage, trying to save somebody's life, either spiritually or physically, whatever, you're just recognizing that they need healing. Because triage can be a difficult thing. You have to decide, can this person, do they need the treatment right now? Can it wait? Or can I even help them at all?
Yeah.
Right? Okay. So you have to make a stand as a warrior to stand what type of treatment you're going to do. You have to have the visionary to see the facts as they are without passing judgment. So the fact is, maybe I cannot help this person.
What's the truth?
The truth is they're in a downward spiral. I cannot help them.
Yeah, right, exactly.
This person's, their life's starting to crumble, but I'll get back to them because this person needs it right now. And you have the wisdom of the teacher to make those judgment calls, balancing against the visionary. And I still feel like these poles are connected in some way, but maybe if we can spin off.
Isn't it interesting to think about that? And I think what occurred to me just now is how, not just how I live and how I choose where I'm going to be, but how I'm going to die. Is, where am I going to die on that wheel?
That's a little close to all of us right now.
Yeah, and where that has everything to do with where my work is that I need to do yet.
Yeah, that's true. Be aware of what
I know and where's my survival. Like, I know how to cook and I know how to build my altar. I sure don't know how to hunt buffalo,
So what I'm really pleased to hear is that you're getting the work, that you understand that it's all connected, even though it's broken up into quarters of the circle, and that the basic mantra of each one is now pretty clear. Am I right about that? The basic mantra? So what's the mantra for the warrior?
Life and death.
Show up and speak. Show up.
I can.
Choose to be present.
Would you say another?
Show up, be present.
I
Show up,
can,
be
yeah.
present.
Show up, be present. Not invisible, not holding back, not hiding. Show up, be present. Choose to be present. What about the visionary?
Tell the truth.
I see.
Yes, tell
I
the
see,
truth.
I know, I hear, yeah.
Tell the truth without judgment or
Without
blame.
blood.
Without blood.
Without blood.
Ah.
Okay, and the healer.
Pay attention.
Pay attention.
Pay attention.
Pay attention to what has heart and meaning.
Without attachment.
Okay.
Patience and
Pay
tolerance.
attention to your heart. Are you full-hearted? Are you half-hearted? Are you happy-hearted? What is the health of your heart? And the love you can bring. And last one, teacher. Be open to outcome, not attached to outcome. Be open to outcome, not attached. Trusting. Trusting.
Boy, I find that hard.
That was hard.
Yeah.
I see this in a particular application in my life, which is considering all of that as I'm making a decision.
Say that again, I'm sorry, I didn't understand.
Oh, I can see using the ways in my life as I'm making a decision.
That's exactly right. Thank you for saying that. Because all of our decisions have a consequence for the house,
The ecology.
right?
of person.
The ecology, right? The goal is to have alignment between the inner house, the infinite inner house, and the everyday world outside, the outside house. If we're in alignment, we're acting from our spirit. We're acting from health. And we're acting as a change master. Why? Because every decision we make has a consequence. And what a decision does is focus energy and power on something. And what happens when we do that? Change happens. Change happens. An ant gives up its life when we do that, right? So the smallest decision has a consequence. What it renders is responsibility. We take responsibility for how our decisions affect the house. And we use that to be a change maker for the good. And we use that to be a change maker. Anybody else have a word that they gathered in the meditation for a skill or talent that you have?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that persevere,
Perseverance?
yeah. Hang in there.
You certainly have persevered in this lifetime, Paul.
And gift, it's a gift.
So what does perseverance?
Perseverance for
relate
me is
to?
a stand,
Yeah.
taking a
So,
stand.
a power.
Right, knowing where you stand. It's called the power of position. I know where I stand. I'm not on the fence, ready to be knocked off by either side.
Well, but if you are, you're willing to come back again to the encounter. One-
But what would you learn if that happened?
Well, Mike, I guess I have a goal that I try in every encounter, and that's to leave, that you're okay and I'm okay when we're done with this. Even if we haven't settled the big issue, we at least walk away and ready to meet again someday.
Next time around.
Next time
See,
around,
that's kind of one of the tricky things about making a stand. Because in Western civilization in particular, when we, making a stand is about,
Winning.
it's about, let me just make sure I get this the way I want it. It's about knowing where we stand, being willing to say where we stand, and to do what we say, okay? Because in Western civilization, when someone asks us to do something or go somewhere, whatever, we say yes. In Western civilization, very often what that person hears is, oh, I like you, I agree with you, sure, I'll do that. But what you're really saying is, yes, that's something I could stand in.
Yeah.
Right? See the difference? Yes, that's something I could stand in. versus, oh, I like you, so I'm gonna agree with you, I'm gonna say yes.
No, I don't see that, this agreement is not there.
But it is
This
because.
agreement of.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's the right word.
Okay, let me just say it another way. Say what you mean and mean what you say.
Yeah.
Say what you mean and mean what you say. If you say yes, mean it. If you say no, mean it.
Yeah,
Know where you stand. Know
Yeah.
what you do say yes to. Know what you do say no to. It's about making a stand. And more importantly, doing what you said you were gonna do,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Kids are great at that, calling us out. Oh, but you said, right?
And the Eastern culture would do what?
I'm just saying in Western culture, there's an underlying
Oh, okay, so you're not, yeah.
understanding that when someone says yes, that means, oh, I like you, you're okay, that's great, let's do that.
And in an Eastern culture.
It's kind of an emotional overlay that's attached to it. I don't know how else to describe it. But like, oh, you wanna go get a drink after work or whatever? Yeah. Maybe you don't really wanna go, but you say yeah, because you wanna send the message that you like that they asked you, that you like this person who asked you. It's a little bit more complex, but I'm trying to just simplify it. It's about knowing where you stand. And instead of making someone else happy or being part of the group or
So to go along to
You know
get
what,
along.
just go along to get along, exactly. Right.
When I studied the medicine wheel, we had a man, a Native American man whose name was Don Moccasin. He's no longer alive. I loved Don and I respected him. He was a man and we were a whole bunch of white women studying this, and he's our teacher, right? And he's thinking, oh shit, I gotta go into the sweat lodge. Not only do I have to go in there with him, I gotta teach him how to do this. And he taught us. And he was such an incredible teacher. He took us out into the woods. We cut white willow and learned how to put it in the ground and bend it and cover it and put the fire pit in there and do the stones. The stones that we gathered have something to teach us. They are like, they have a lesson. We had to get the right stones and put them in. And he said, I'm gonna get in this sweat lodge with all these white women. Am I gonna do this? You gotta listen to me. He would tell us what the rules were and how to listen to him. And we're not gonna just be in here telling stories and yabbering. We're gonna do this lesson thing, and you gotta do what I tell you to do, and you gotta do it respectfully.
And yeah, what I love about what you're bringing forward is the connection to nature. That nature is the blueprint. Nature is the blueprint. That you go, spending time in nature is a lost art in America sometimes, right? Raise your hand if you were out in nature for more than 30 minutes in the last 3 days. Oh, good.
Not me.
That's good.
I'm sorry,
Yeah.
I wasn't. I wish I would have been. I get mad about it. I'm sorry. I'm mad about that. I really am. I'm mad about that.
But what's important is that the nature is involved. Nature is connected. Nature is the blueprint, in my opinion. Nature is the blueprint. I've always been an outdoor girl. And one of the things that I find is the truth for me is that nature knows how to survive. Nature knows how to be interdependent. Nature knows how to live.
Nature doesn't know merciful.
Pardon me?
No,
Nature doesn't know mercy.
Nature doesn't know mercy.
Whatever, yeah, nature tells the truth.
Nature tells the truth.
Right.
I learned a lot in the sweat lodge from Don Moccasin. And Don Moccasin in the name of who he is. And when I tell you about him, I want to say thank you, Don, for taking me into the sweat lodge and for teaching me that. Because I didn't know shit, about how to do this. And I learned so much. And it's like incredible.
So, is there anybody else who has a feeling about which quadrant you are most pulled towards, that you feel the most developed in? Yes.
Well, the word that I came up with was pathfinder. So that sounds like the visionary to me. It was weird, and I used to answer the phone for Metro up in Seattle, and for people, we joked that we were the people who told people where to go and where to get off.
Okay, I can see you doing that.
Yeah, but you're good at that and not that.
And so you're feeling that that's visionary?
I think so. If you're finding a path. I mean, I have like 3 ancestors who were that kind of person. Who literally did that. Were the first people to settle in a certain area. So yeah, I think it's a part of that. You have to have a vision about what you're going to do when you go there.
Is there one of the quadrants that you feel is the least developed?
The others.
That's true, because it seems like you would probably lean into what your strengths are,
Of course.
but there's weakness there too. As my first impression when we were talking about this is caregiving. And I mean, there's so much in that that's so enriching, but and the mantra for that is pay attention, isn't it?
Pay attention
And
to
you-
what has heart and meaning.
Yeah,
But it's very hard paying attention to everybody. It's a lot of work,
it is.
and it can be draining, and it can get you into trouble and drag you down. So I feel like I need to strengthen some of these other things.
Okay. And paying attention to what has heart and meaning narrows down what you need to be tracking. Okay? If it doesn't have heart and meaning, let it go. Right? That narrows it.
That's true.
And again, that's focusing on heart and meaning. What does that change when you focus on that?
I don't know, I'll have to think about
Yeah.
it.
Okay, good.
Sorry, you don't get any chicken today. I'm sorry, you don't have heart and meaning for me. She works in a deli.
That always comes into it somewhere.
Because the big piece of that for me is like I don't know anything about hunting buffalo, but I sure know how to use my rattle. I sure know how to do that. And so and I can stand there and tell everybody else what to do pretty good. And so there's pieces of that I have, but I'm certainly not. I suppose if I had to be a warrior, I could do it. I don't think I'd be very good at it, but oh well. And
Oh, Arlene, you're a warrior every day.
Yeah.
So you stand up for your rights, you fight for your rights, you fight for what's right. You're a warrior.
I get really pissed off about it. You know what?
Anger doesn't have anything to do with it. It's you look for what's right. It's not sure it makes you angry, but the fundamental rightness of things is very important to you.
Thank you, Kay.
So that's perfect segue for wrapping up, because we could go on and on. And if we want to get together again about it, I'm available, let me know.
Great.
And what I want to ask you for is, I want you to just take a minute, and I want you to write, what did I do with it? I want you to take one of these, I'm gonna pass it around. No, I'm sorry, take 2. Sorry, I misspoke. Thank you. Thank you.
There are a few hands right at the corner of that table right there. They'll stand.
Oh yeah, there's a row in there.
Okay, does everybody have
Yeah,
two
make sure
pieces of
that's
paper?
Yeah, they
Yes.
come around.
Oh, shit.
It's
It's a
I
halfway
got
around.
'em.
Yeah, thank you.
Second piece loaded down a bit.
Oh,
Let's
gosh,
see.
I hope I have enough. I have enough?
Yeah,
There's quite a bit on there.
I can always put mine in half.
Got mine.
You're such a good listener.
I have two hands.
Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you.
We can tear them in half if we don't have enough.
Don't
Looks like it's gonna make it.
I think I figured we would have enough. Okay,
Counted them, huh?
Uh-huh. Okay, so I just want to invite you to do two things. I want you to write down and not do anything with it, just hold on to it. I want you to write down which way is your most developed place on the fourfold path. Which way? The visionary, the healer, the teacher, or the warrior or leader? Just write it, fairly big on that piece of paper, but don't do anything with it. In fact, just turn it over when you're done.
What's the four again?
Healer, teacher, warrior, visionary.
Visionary, tell the truth without judgment or blame. Healer, pay attention to what has heart and meaning. Teacher, be open to outcome, not attached to outcome. Warrior, show up, be fully present, make a stand. Now on the second piece of paper, I want you to write down something that you see in the person sitting on your right.
That's on the circle, you mean?
It can be which of the ways, or it can be.
So this person,
Yep, this
how do I
one.
see her?
Yeah.
Yes.
You, how do you
What
see me?
do you see that person being the
So I'll
most
get our
developed
directional
in,
dyslexia.
right?
Yeah.
And write it big enough.
Big enough for what?
So that we can see it across the circle.
Oh, you didn't say that.
Oh, we're gonna
Sorry,
have
that's
a
okay, you can
flashcard
read it,
thing.
yeah.
I'll read it, yeah.
So I'm gonna start and we're gonna go around and share. First of all, we're gonna share what we see in our neighbor. And Arlene, warrior. You make a stand and I know when you're here. I know you.
Yeah.
Yeah, you have a very strong presence. You show up. Thank you.
Thank you.
Is this like
Turn
turquoise
your
or
way.
counterclockwise?
Doesn't matter, you wanna go there?
Okay.
You wanna go next,
Oh,
Arlene?
yes, I'd be happy to. Linda, what I see in you is a Southgate, and Southgate for me is kind of home and hearth and creating space for the love and the heart and the soul and the food and the joy and the together and harmony. And that's what I see.
What did you write down?
I wrote down what I see in the person to my right is the Southgate home and hearth.
Beautiful. You wanna just put it up, put your label on.
Put yours on there.
Oh, my
You're
warrior.
warrior, yep.
I had difficulty choosing,
Okay.
I see warrior and I also see healer, because I think, you are a leader and you're always showing up. That's the most visible, but knowing you, I know you pay a lot of attention to what has heart and meaning for you. So that's probably truly, well, I don't, it's where you're most focused. I don't know if it's most developed, but that's my, I'm just putting that off on.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
It's interesting because okay,
Yeah, go
my feeling is that actually I can't choose really one because I'm active in all of them, and as a matter of fact, I put for myself visionary. So we have three, right?
That's a good balance.
For you, Paul, I have warrior.
Warrior.
Yeah, because you are always, well, you're always present, you're always attentive, you're always engaged, and I feel very strongly that this is where you are the strongest.
Well,
Please put
okay.
it on your chest there for us, Paul. Put it on.
Sticky note.
What does it say?
Warrior.
Warrior.
Warrior? Okay.
Look out, you guys.
Okay, just don't go on the warpath.
Or leader. Leader is another word.
Oh, for Giovanni, Paul, you don't know him very
I don't
well
know
yet,
him.
but
Big question mark is fine.
Yeah. Well, the thing that first hit me is the word learning. You're striving to be learning the best way to do something. A visionary, I guess, is in this system. It's probably the best.
Okay.
Thank you. So, son?
There you go.
Right, and Ananda, I couldn't choose this one, so I put two. I put visionary and teacher, because I feel like you speak when the timing's right and offer up very concise. I don't want to say the wrong word. I don't want to say truth, but your observance of the conversation, and then you back it up with wisdom on the teacher. So I feel like that you balance between the two, but that's just my real quick assessments.
Thank you. Well. Cindy, I put teacher. Because I think that you have that non-judgmental sort of balance and kindness that a true teacher has.
Nice.
Wow, thank you.
Laurel, so easy. Well, I wrote down compassion. You just exude compassion. And so then, of course, that matches with healer. So,
All right, thank
Yeah.
you, Cindy.
yeah, you just care so much from the heart.
I lost my label.
I just gotta learn that discernment, that's my thing.
There wasn't as much warrior
So-
there as you thought.
Carol, I see discerning, that's an issue, but I put warrior for Carol. Because she takes a stand, she has a lot of power, and she takes action. Did I miss anything?
Wow.
It's hard to choose sometimes too, because I feel like you're just a fountain of knowledge and information, and you are factual, which is kind of the opposite of me. So I kind of feel like I'm like swimming out there in a field of emotion, and you feel much more grounded, and I guess I think that, I think warrior to me was close. Close enough.
Thank you. Yeah. And of course, this lady, whether she accepts it or not, is a healer.
Beautiful.
Okay. She sees everything with heart. Everything. I have never heard her think of things without heart. When she thinks of problems in the world, she's thinking of it from a heart point of view. And when she's thinking of other people going through problems, she's thinking of it from a heart point of view. And she's so kind. I just love her. Thank you.
Well, Cheryl, I see you as a visionary
Really?
because I see the truth. You tell the truth, you step up, you stand in your truth. You know your truth. And that's, I just see you powerful in that.
Wow. Thanks.
You're welcome.
I didn't know that.
That's how I see you.
Yes.
I think you do.
Nice. Nice. Well, I had trouble because our beloved
Our
Martie
balance.
is so balanced, but I see her as a leader and a warrior, and not in an overpowering way, in a strong, kind, knowledgeable way that commands respect without demanding it. And you lead us all so effortlessly. We just are like little puppy dogs. I see you as a warrior or a leader.
Okay, are we okay on time?
Oh,
I
we're
have two
here.
more things I would like to do if we can.
Hey,
We're
yeah.
here. We're here.
Nobody's
I'm happy
leaving.
to be here.
And now we're gonna, what?
Can I make a comment? I mean, it's an excellent exercise, but it can be biased by our shadows.
Of course,
Right?
of course. We're getting there. Good observation. I want to go back around now, and I want you to look at what someone else saw in you and tell us what you saw for yourself. And do they match, or are they very different? Are you surprised? Are you challenged?
I feel entirely surprised that you saw me as a warrior. I feel honored and blessed and happy about that. I saw myself as a visionary, the one that kind of sees like, oh shit, how did I get here? And what am I gonna do? And it's kind of like that place of knowing like why am I here? What am I doing? And I think that I ask those questions and I'm in that place. That's entirely different than I feel about being a warrior. I don't see myself as a warrior at all.
So it's interesting, isn't it? Because we have a self-image of our house, and someone else is looking from the outside house. And what we want to create ultimately is the alignment between what is inside us, what we see, and what those from the outside house see, right? So you wrote visionary,
Yes.
and do you want to put that up there also?
Oh, sure. I don't know if you can read it. I put a lot of
Visionary
little
and
writing on
warrior.
it. Visionary and the warrior.
So can you see the way that those can
Work
work
together.
together for you?
To work together for me, I don't know. No, I think that's where I fight. That's where my battle is. I
Okay.
don't know.
Okay, so
How
that's
that-
what's important to know. That's what's
Okay.
important to know. How you feel about that. What you see is true about that. About the fact that you see one thing and someone else sees another. So what is the one thing that you could do now to make that feel more comfortable for you?
For me, I need to pray about it and think about how a warrior and a visionary can be closer. Because right now they feel not very close.
Okay.
And so I need to see how they could be closer. because the visionaries got to know what the heck the warrior's gonna do and where the battles are and what kind of weapons to take and, you know.
She wants to fight.
Yeah, who I'm gonna fight and how to do it. And
Okay.
am I gonna roll up my sleeves and,
Well,
you know.
So-
visionary's action.
Pardon me?
The visionary's action.
Warrior.
And perhaps, I mean, the warrior's action. Perhaps if you see yourself not being able to pursue action because of your wheelchair, remember that there are a million different ways to show up and act. And you act in so many ways other than, getting out and going and doing things. Your action is in the things you pursue.
Showing up.
I
In
learned
other
how
ways.
to do that when I was younger. I learned how to go and fight and build my garden, and I learned how to do that. I'm glad, thank God, I learned how to do that, and I got that in my pocket. But I sure don't feel like I'm using it now.
Well, yeah, because you have to shift now. You have to shift gears and find your action in another place.
And I also would caution you against using the word warrior as in war.
Yeah,
Because warrior is really sort of the old name for it, but a contemporary name for it would be leader. So just keep that in mind. There's another way to see it. Leadership. It's about leadership. It's about standing in your power. Okay?
it's about using conflict wisely.
Sorry?
Using conflict wisely.
That's part of it, yes.
Well, I think it's most of it. Because many times when there's a problem, we're scared to talk about it. We
Okay, so
play,
that's about telling the truth.
yeah. And sometimes it fuzzes people's backbone.
But do you see how it could also be paying attention to what has heart and meaning?
Yeah,
Could you also see that it's connected to being open to outcome? Not attached?
well, I think to go in, at least when I go into battle, I don't expect to necessarily to win right away.
But do you see
But
what
I go in with the objective of highlighting a problem, even if it can't be solved at that moment, and being truthful about it. And I used to be in trouble at work a lot because I would challenge the boss, and then the rest of
Yes.
the guys would
shoot the messenger?
sit around and bitch about it, but they wouldn't do anything about it. And but it was in that process that I got changes made that needed to be made, and it helped everybody.
And that's the change maker
Yeah,
that I'm talking about. Focusing your energy changes things.
and I still find myself doing it in little ways now, but still
Okay.
not doing it.
Thank you. I want to get back to going around the circle, and then we'll hear more from you, yes?
I chose warrior. I felt like there was some of all of that that's probably my least developed, being open to outcome. So, yeah, but the thing I think the reason I chose warrior is being present, I feel, is one of my strengths.
Beautiful. So you put warrior and your,
Yes, the house,
you're
the
given
home,
here.
and
Okay. So what is the one thing that surprised you about that?
nothing.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
No, because I can see it. I don't know if I feel it's my strongest suit, but yeah.
Okay. So is there something that maybe it didn't surprise you, but it challenged you or moved you in some way?
Well, I think of this as a place of service and lots of times and support, and I've just kind of resisted that, in those kind of things. I think that's where I was as a kid because I was so compliant. And it's like being willing to serve. Sometimes it's like, I really don't feel like being of service, but I guess that's what I'm supposed to do.
Thank you for being truthful.
Yeah.
Okay, beautiful, thank you.
For me, like I mentioned before, I had a hard time. If you want me to just have one word, it would be visionary, where I would feel the strongest. But as a matter of fact, I see strengths in each one of them and weaknesses too. And I think I think to that effect, applying the right attitude to a particular problem is probably where I need to work from, because I think what Linda just said applies to me too. I may recognize that I need to do something, but I don't feel like it, right?
Remind me what Linda gave you on the paper. Remind me what Linda.
She said warrior and healer.
Okay.
So
Interesting.
And you put,
I put visionary.
And he's got 3 out of 4.
Right.
Very good.
Anything surprise you or challenge you or move you about that?
No, not in a sense, more in a sense of discernment for the individual one, where I say, okay, I have some space here. But I know that I have always worked on all the aspects of what I see here, not consciously, because I wasn't aware of the four ways, but more in my interest and in what I do. I show up. I have visions, and so on. I can work on these things independently. So it's not a surprise that these things are part of what life is all about.
Nice. Thank you. Paul, was there anything you'd like to share? Be sure and tell us what someone saw in you and what you saw in you.
Well, I went to a party last night. It was Halloween party.
Are you hungover?
Were you
Paul?
dressed up?
And
What'd you go as?
me, I just had my Forest Service cap on and I had my uniform on.
Oh, cool.
Okay.
And there was a lot of people that were just slinking around, not talking, and I decided to engage whoever was with me. I engaged with them. And
That's showing up.
that's what
Yeah,
you do.
I mean,
That's showing up.
well, I stand there and nothing happening, I mean, I usually found people were willing to talk if you prompted them and gave them said a little joke or something, to get things going.
Yeah.
But I don't remember their names. I couldn't tell you right now the name of one of them, but I met some real nice people.
Oh, Paul, all the introverts loved you for doing that.
Yeah.
And at the end, my partner, Henry, wanted to go home, and what is it when you have singing?
Karaoke.
Karaoke. There was karaoke. It was really, and I really enjoyed it. And I wanted to tell the people how much I enjoyed it. And now do I go around and tell each one? I couldn't do that. Henry wanted to go home, so I just got on the mic and told everybody how I felt. That I really enjoyed their meeting and their Halloween party. And if you have another one, and I'm still alive, I want to come to the damn thing. And,
I love the visionary.
so that was, and I enjoyed the music. That's not my kind of music, but I really enjoyed it just the same.
So which of these things did you choose?
Well, I think I'm the warrior. I'm still out there putting it out. I'm willing to.
So I'm sorry, remind us your outside one and your inside one.
That's what Eric saw you as too. Eric saw Paul as a warrior as well.
I don't know if there's
Warrior, both for warriors?
Yeah.
well, my other one's a teacher. I'm there to try to accomplish something. I can't tell you what it is till I get there a lot of times.
See, that's an outcome. He's not attached to the outcome of it either.
I walk my dog every day and meet lots of neighbors, and we're all at different stages of engagement, but my goal is to engage everybody and find the love in it.
Yes, sir. Beautiful, thank you.
Okay, well, I was tagged as a visionary because I'm seeking truth, and I would definitely agree. I've not arrived on any of these. It's a journey for all for me on all of these. But for myself, I did associate myself mostly as a visionary. For I think the same reason you mentioned it. That's really, I feel like that's the life path that I'm on, and I feel like I'm very deficient in things like love. I know that for sure. So that was out anyway. So it's just a process of elimination. Visionary.
Okay. So was there a surprise in there for you?
Was you surprised Paul saw that in you?
Just with the brief, exposure that we've had together, I think you read me well, right? So
it was not a surprise.
Not a surprise. I would have been surprised if, like, oh yeah, the Giovanni, he's really a loving guy, I'm working on it.
That could still be your vision.
It could be.
So is there a challenge in there?
What as far as the areas that I'm deficient in?
I don't know any challenge at all.
Definitely. I mean, it's really understanding the energies of, like if you want to talk like chakras or something, for example, the energies where I feel like I need to be more healthy and on a foundation, and so I guess I'm not quite sure how to answer your question on specifically about challenges.
Okay, so is there something in particular that you want to focus the energy on?
The energy of a visionary, or
anything?
Well, I'd say personal and spiritual growth on all of these areas, right? But I think this one comes most easily to me.
Perfect. Okay. Good to know. Starting place. Yeah.
Well, I sort of already jumped and yammered a little while ago, so I put visionary. Because
Why not?
yeah. So I already talked about it. So
And I can't read the other ones.
Visionary and teacher. There's a little teacher. I but you asked for one, so
Okay.
yeah.
Anything else you want to share about it?
No, I think
Not a surprise.
yeah, not a surprise. No.
Any challenge?
I'm most challenged by warrior. I feel I can be empathetic, and I certainly enjoy teaching, but taking a stand, pretty hard.
Oh my, I can't believe that. Are you saying that?
Yeah.
Okay.
There's a difference between knowing things and taking a stand on things, I think. I think. Ananda knows an awful lot of stuff. And
Stop, please. No.
You have so much knowledge.
Yeah.
You have so much knowledge. But whether you have to fight to prove that knowledge is correct or whatever, you know what you know, and I don't think you think the whole world has to know as much as you know. At least
No, not at all.
You're like, I'll know my knowing, and you be you.
Well, thank you. But that's not being a warrior.
Yeah.
No, being a warrior seems to me to be to join the poles of heaven and earth and let the power flow through you. And I am not good at that. That's taking a stand where you the outcome doesn't matter. You're going to do it. You know, I mean, there's all these are so intimately, you know, you can't say much about one without having to include the others, but that's the essence, and I just don't do that. It's hard for me.
Well, you sure do a good job when you engage in it.
Well, thank you. Thank you.
You know, taking a stand is really about knowing where you stand. It's not about standing up for something else. It's about knowing where you stand. It's about when you know where you stand and someone asks you something, right away you know if it's a yes or a no. Do you see what I'm saying? I know where I stand. I know, which means I know what I would do or not do. I know what my limits that I set for myself in terms of what I'm agreeing to or whatever is in there. Do you see the difference?
Yes.
Yeah. So it's not necessarily that you are defending or anything. You don't need to defend a stand. A stand just is for you that you know where you stand on it, whatever it is.
Yeah.
So you know where no starts and you know where yes starts, right? And you never say no when you mean yes.
But that's not true.
Okay.
I mean, what you say is true, but that's not what I do.
Okay.
Sometimes you say no when you mean yes. I can't believe that about you.
Maybe it's the other way around.
Or the other way around.
Yes, when he really doesn't want to.
Yeah.
Okay. Good. Good knowing. Anything else?
No, thanks.
No. Well, this was really great because when we're going through it and I'm looking at what Ananda labeled me here,
Which is
teacher.
Teacher.
And I had the biggest reaction because I have found myself, I'm very aware of it, that I'm attached to outcome really big time. I mean, that's why I was in fundamental Christianity for 40 years, because you do it this way and you put your quarter in, you get your product.
Yeah.
Guaranteed. If you're serving God and doing what Jesus says, everything's great. And so, that ended up, as you know, didn't really work for me. I want this outcome. Jesus said, pray anything in my name and you'll get it. All right. So, yeah, I can go on and on about that. But, and then when you're talking about the not attached to outcome, okay with uncertainty. And then, but it was, I almost want to choke up. When you saw that in me, that's one of my biggest challenges. And I'm like, I want to be that kind of experience life with any outcomes okay.
Well, I think you're on the road because maybe you used to be that way, attached to outcome.
Oh,
and
big.
I don't see you so attached to outcome now. I mean, there might be some of that left, but I really think you're expanding your horizons.
Oh, I can feel that when you said teacher. I'm like,
yeah.
Well, this is great because, again, being part of this group has really just, brought me along in all these wisdom and love and standing, all that stuff. So it's just a real sweet feeling to you seeing me that way, because I feel like that's one of my weaker, as far as wanting things to go certain ways and being upset or the other one was, what was the one with the visionary. That was the one I wrote down first myself, was visionary. And I thought about it and I thought, you know what was my little notes about that was Oh, seeing the truth without blame or judgment. And I thought, blame and judgment are fun. You know, it's your fault. And the Lord, the Bible tells me, you know, he that is wise judges all things. There's a scripture like that.
Really?
Yes.
That's the Bible.
Well, there's and then there's
She's paraphrasing it all.
well, there's a scripture that says, he that is spiritual judges, and it means, you know, discerns things.
Discerns things.
And then, because it also says, judge not that you be judged. So you know, so I have a lot of blocked up stuff because of my fundamentalism. But I feel like for you to say teacher and you to say you're on the path of letting that stuff go, it's just really great. So I crossed out visionary and put healer because I really think I do, and I really want to see what's important. What's it? Heart and
paying attention to what's important.
Heart and meaning.
Yeah.
Heart and meaning. So, and my least one is, I really wish. Well, I have been up to today. I've been. I have a hard time taking a stand because I want you to like me, and like you said about what America or a Western culture does. It makes me want to say yes because then we're in community or whatever that. It's a false sense of being part of the group.
You see, it's interesting because as soon as Ananda was saying that you were a teacher, it came to mind the comment about the shadow work, because I could not believe that this was true.
Which
Yeah.
is true.
That she was a teacher.
Oh.
That
You
was
felt
her
it? I
strength.
felt it, or you also?
No, what I felt is that you gave an image of being a teacher, but you were not. Ooh.
Because
It's really
because
tricky.
of her attachment to outcome, right? Or-
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I didn't see it in this way. I just felt it wasn't right. You see?
Yeah.
That's it.
Well, and then I have the whole mixed up thing with visionary because in the fundamentalist church, I was considered a prophetess, which gives the word a prophetess. I would say in church, if I was brave enough, the Lord would say, and then I would prophesy something. And it was like I could say what the Lord gave me as truth, but I couldn't say it.
As yourself.
But I'd say, thus saith the Lord, and this big thing would come out. Anyway, so that's an interesting mix. Okay.
Eye-opening, huh?
Yes, the challenge part, like, so great. Like one of my weakest things, you saw working in me. Thank you.
You get to put your other sticker on.
Oh.
Oh, yeah. Well, mine are both the same, so I just have one on, but it's always it's very gratifying to see what other people think of you or see in you. I think that's why something like this is very heart touching. So I wasn't really surprised. I feel like, you know, like I already said, I feel like I have some challenges to work on some other skills that I'd like to work on, like taking a stand would be a good one, and some of the other things, but basically, yeah.
Nice. Can I ask you what is it hard for you to let go of outcome?
Yes. Yes.
Yeah.
When I heard that, I'm like,
Yes.
wow, that is so powerful. How do people do that?
Yeah. Because you're so loving. I feel that from you. You have a sense of what you want to happen in someone's life because you love them.
Yeah.
And you don't get that response.
Yeah. That is a big one. Yeah, for sure.
Nice. Thank you.
Okay, so
This is
I'm
like a group therapy session.
I'm seen as a warrior, and I think of myself as a teacher. And,
See, yeah, I kind of vacillated, it was hard.
and the thing is, as I looked at this, I went through my lifetime and I saw a number of places where my shadow side was definitely in each one of them as I was growing up.
Oh,
And then as I became more aware of stuff spiritually, I could see my growth in every one of them.
nice.
And then the one that I think that I'm practicing the strongest in right now is teacher.
And especially with all the work you do with the Alzheimer's patients and their families, yeah.
And all the wonderful things you post, the wisdom you post on Facebook, that, like, wow, that's really deep, I really appreciate that.
Thank you. And not being attached to outcome, I have fun with that.
Oh, I know you do, that's true.
Because the way I do that, you know, whatever's in my best interest and highest good is manifesting now, and if I have a vote.
This is what I know.
Yeah. So,
Well, Carol saw me as a healer, I see myself as a healer.
As a what? Oh, fine, no surprises.
A healer. So,
Yes.
love. And I mean, you guys heard me talk the last service, all you need is love. I mean, that's what I believe.
Yeah.
But I know I'm the weakest in visionary because it's not always, I can't always tell the truth if I'm afraid that it might hurt someone. What I can't, if, or, you know, I'll think something, but I won't say it. I won't, oh, you say I say too much. You're sitting over here laughing.
Between the person you're closest to and accept and totally buy is different than what you do.
Yeah, so I definitely need to work on my Eastern fire visionary side.
Okay.
Well, I was surprised to get visionary, but now that I'm thinking and hearing about it, I can see that may well be part of my strength. Telling the truth, yeah, that's really big, and so I see myself more as a healer because it seems like for the last couple decades, I've just been nurturing and taking care of people and pets and family and I always, I don't know, I just see myself as more in that service area.
Birthdays, you know.
Yeah,
that's what I thought
Yeah.
of, birthdays.
But I like being associated with visionary. I'm gonna have to really meditate on that. And I really think my weakness is teacher because I am very attached to outcome and it's my way or the highway, and we get into many fights over that. I shared with some friends recently that I spoke my truth to two people, and I really hurt their feelings.
Ooh.
And it was because I never speak up and say what I think, but I didn't do it at the right time, in the right way, and it's like, I don't like hearing you talk about other people every time I talk to you on the phone, and next time I hope you'll quit doing that. That was a family member. And I've talked to her since and we haven't discussed it, and I regretted it as soon as I said it, but it just was welling up in me like, every time I talk to you, you just rag about everybody. I'm just so disgusted with hearing it, and I had no timing, or I didn't say it to be mean, but it was thinking more about how she affected me than how she came up. I don't know, because it just seemed like she always was that way, but I don't know how I should have done it, but she hasn't talked about people since. But she's holding back, I'm sure, how she really feels about me.
Change.
Yeah.
Change.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's not to be ashamed of.
Stop it.
Told the truth.
Yeah, so I need to work on timing. But thank you, yeah, so, I don't know where my healer went, but. There you go. Yeah,
A healing visionary.
yeah, thank you.
Well, briefly, I had a hard time coming up with one for myself. I finally landed on teacher. But I was given warrior.
Leader.
Thank you. I do try, I work the work, and I'm not saying I'm successful or I've arrived, but certainly it's an ongoing project, and I have come to the place where I feel comfortable in any of them. I feel comfortable in each of them, and I have a feeling that probably I thought, I don't know what I thought.
Come on.
It's always a surprise, isn't it? So to be seen as a warrior.
Do you think of yourself as a healer? You were kind of-
Because I'm a very, I sometimes practice the shadow of warrior. In other words, there's a conversation and I hold back something that I know about that, because I just want it to unfold without me, and I just want to watch. Right? Which is
Not invested in
my
the
shadow
outcome.
work, yeah. Yeah, so, yeah, that's my homework. Shadow work. And I realize that we've only scratched the surface on this work. But please contact me if you would like to know, like, for example, I want to work in visionary. What are the meditation styles? What are the instruments that I can play to empower my work in that area? What is the activity in nature that I can engage in that would support me in that area? What season of the year is it probably a good idea to work in that area? So there's a lot more going on. There's a lot of questions we can pose to help you get in to those places that are still unknown and still open for you to explore. So please contact me if you would like. And I don't know, are we gonna do another one or no?
Yeah, I thought we had
Yeah, we had a couple more.
Series of 3.
I think we talked about 3, but I don't have the third date, so
Okay.
do you know
have
when
the
it is?
third date for Marty on the list.
Yes.
You leaving?
No, I'm
Thank you.
going to the
I've been
restroom.
away,
Oh.
so I might have-
Restroom break.
You gotta get your pass.
Oh, do you want to close us? I'm concerned people walking with the candle still.
Oh, we're not done.
She's
It
going
would be,
I need a restroom.
Okay.
Marty,
I
that
didn't
would be
think Marty-
11th, from 10th of November. And we still had also another date on the 24th of November.
10th and 24th.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
So 2 of them in November.
But will
No,
they
no,
That's
Yeah.
still not.
Is
one or
ours
the
set
other,
on
right?
soon?
No, we had both.
Oh, really? Wow.
Works for you.
It was a continuation of.
Wow,
We had,
great.
yeah. The first one was an intro. Yeah, you can send it. Yeah.
So, yeah,
Okay, that's fine, I'm open.
and you're gonna have to let us know what works best for you.
Yeah,
And we'll be flexible. if
Okay,
anything.
yeah.
I am, yes, I'm a caregiver right now,
That's right. We need that, don't wanna.
so, yes, but I can make it work. He was absolutely fine, he practically pushed me out the door. Go,
He's
He's
great.
in phase
Go.
2 right now.
So, while we're waiting, I did want to pose a couple of questions that will help you with whatever homework you might be thinking you could engage in. And I just want to give you maybe 1 or 2 questions for each of the archetypes. So for example, if you're working in warrior, this is the question that I like, which is, who are the leaders and people who have carried the warrior spirit, who have inspired me and have been sources of empowerment in history or in contemporary times.
That's a lot.
So in other words, who are the leaders who have inspired me? So I used it as an example earlier. So is it Gandhi? Is it Eleanor Roosevelt? Is it Martin Luther King? You know, whoever. It can be a historical person.
Miss Parsons.
It can be a historical person, or it can be someone who's contemporary. Right.
That's not
And
mine.
the reason that that's a good exercise.
That was Giovanni.
Oh, I'm sorry.
No, I'm looking for my purse. I was gonna put my paper in it, but I can't
So
get
just
to
wait till we're.
Okay.
Okay. So what was I saying? The reason it pays, it's a dividend to realize who inspires you in leadership roles is because this person is mirroring the gifts and talents and skills that you have. This person has used them in the world, and you're attracted to this person likely because it mirrors your power. And this could be a street sign, you know, a directional sign for where you can truly deepen and do some work and really be rewarded. And the world would be rewarded as well, because when you do this work and you become each of these ways and you live each of these ways, you will make a difference in the world. You will make a difference in the world. Because I think the saddest, most incomprehensible thing in my world is to see beautiful, powerful energy that is not being used to make good change, to
Amen.
make positive change.
Amen, sister.
We need to bring it forward more, and I'm just gonna say, now more than ever.
Yes.
Please bring it forward, now more than ever.
Yeah.
Okay, that was the warrior question, and the one that I picked out for healer is I already shared with you, but I'll read them again. Like, what are your favorite childhood stories? The stories that when you first meet someone, you might tell them this story in order to, you know, make yourself visible to them, to help them learn who you are. So the stories that you bring forward when you meet a new person, for example. Let's see, for the visionary, the question I picked out for you to play with is, between the ages of 4 and 12, what activities captivated me for hours without the need of having anybody else around? And for the teacher, again repeating, who have been the significant teachers in my life? And of those teachers, who were sources of inspiration or who were sources of challenge? Okay, got them? And just work with the ones that you're called to. And just see where it takes you.
Oh, that last question was for teacher?
Yes.
Oh, okay. Sorry, I missed that.
And the homework is at wherever you were surprised or challenged in the difference between your inner house view and your outer house view, but also getting more focused about which place is calling you first to go work. Which place is calling you first to go work?
Can I get a clarification on that?
Sorry.
So clarifying
Which
question.
way? So the teacher, the
Right.
warrior, the visionary, or the healer?
Right, that being called in that direction because I feel I'm most challenged, or I'll say maybe the word deficient comes to mind, or that I'm most drawn.
Either one.
Or both.
Either one.
Okay.
Wherever you find yourself sort of going.
Okay.
Just listen inside. Okay, it's not a thinking solution. Okay, it's a heart solution.
Okay.
Where do I need to go?
Okay.
I'm listening.
That helps. Thank you.
Yeah. And as I said from the very beginning, that optimal health is that you're equally powerful in each one of these corners. And so keep that in mind as the ultimate goal at the end is how can I empower myself in each of these 4 ways, on each of these 4 paths that in the end come together in the center. Okay? So when we get back together, we'll be looking at not just the theory of the practice, which is what we sort of focused on today, but the actual practice of the practice.
Cool.
What is the work? Okay? How can you grow your power in each of these ways? And once we know how do we activate that in ourselves? And I want to ask you a question that I want you to take some time with and come back next time with some response, whatever your response is to the question. Here's the question. When I look out in the world, the thing that I see that breaks my heart is when I look out into the world, the thing that I see that really breaks my heart is fill in the blank. And now I want you to ask yourself that question after each circle. And this is something we're going to use at the end. Okay? But I want you to have this time to let it percolate. Plant the seed.
Is that a wrap?
I think yes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
That
you.
was fabulous.
Have some fun and have some quiet time with it. Yeah.
I appreciate you so much, Marty. I
Thank you.
just do.
Thank you for your input. This is something that's really home for you. Yeah.
So our closing song is Bridge Over Troubled Waters.
Oh, Simon and Garfunkel. I love them too.
So with that, let's greet each other with namaste before we go on to our prayers.
Other person.
Thank you all.